Welcome back. We are starting on the second wind chime. Same supplies as before. This one is just going to be a little bit different. On this one, as you can see, I have holes drilled around the bottom of the bottle. And that will be included in my tutorial on cutting and preparing the bottles. So I'm going to start with the cork. Now, on the cork, I've got my little eye pin here, and I just put it through the cork. I'm going to dab just a little bit of the super glue on the bottom of this loop and pull it down. Pretty much what I'm wanting to ensure here is that my eye pin doesn't come sliding back through. So while that is drying, I'm going to create my loop on the other end. Let's see. And I think I'm going to cut it off about right there. Make myself a decent sized loop to work with here. So now that I've got this loop made, I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on this end as well. I mean, it is cork after all. Alright. I do have a few toothpicks here for cleaning up messes, so I'm just going to make sure that it didn't clog my little hole here. Alright, that part is done. So next, I am going to attach my centerpiece. I have this adorable little piece of wood that I found and painted, and I just attached some chain up at the top of it, and I have my strand of beads coming from the middle. This is going to be going down the center of our wind chime. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of the fishing line cut. We don't need a whole lot for this, just enough to suspend the wooden piece in the right spot. So I'm going to start with attaching it to the end of this chain. I'm just going to try not to drop it. That would be a good start. I'm just going to put myself a little crimp bead on here and feed it through the last link in this chain. And then I will feed it right back through my crimp bead. And maybe. There we go. It's the downside to working with crimp beads is they're so small that sometimes they just don't want to cooperate. Alright. Now, since this is not going to be seen, I'm not going to bother with a crimp bead cover on this one. I'm just going to trim my little tail here. Alright. So now we're going to attach the other end. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put on a little crimp bead. And then I'm going to feed it through the loop on the bottom of the cork. Now, you will see the reason for me doing it this way in just one moment. I kind of skipped a little bit of a step here. I need to feed this through the bottle before I feed it through the cork. Because the whole purpose in doing this before I glue the cork into the bottle is to ensure that we can fasten the end of the fishing line. So now that I've got it through the bottle, I'll put this crimp bead back on. Like I said, I'm just going to feed it through the loop on the bottom of my cork, back through my crimp bead, and then I will do my best to position my little wooden piece where I want it, which is right about there. I'm just gonna hold on to this nice and tight while I grab one of my strand stoppers. Now keep in mind, we've got to account for the cork. So from where my fingers are, I'm going to put the cork next to it to kind of judge about where I actually need to cinch up this crimp bead. And I'm going to place my stopper right below that. So then we'll come through, get this cinched up, get that right up next to the loop, and close the crimp bead. Now again, since this one's not going to be seen, I'm not going to bother with crimp bead cover. I'm just wanting to make sure that my fishing line stays in place. Alright, so I trim that tail, remove my stopper, and I will go ahead and push in the cork just to make sure that it's still hanging where I want it. It's a little bit higher than what I was wanting. I don't know. It's a little bit higher than where I was wanting, but I can work with it. I can push this cork down even further. So now that we've gotten that part out of the way, I am going to glue the cork into the bottle. I just have some E6000. I'm going to use that and a little bit of super glue just to kind of help it hold so I can still work on it. I'm just going to put some of this E6000 on the little stick here. Smear it around my cork. I have come to the conclusion that at some point in my life I should probably just buy stock in the E6000. I'm telling you, I use it on everything. It is the most versatile super glue I have ever come across. Alright, so now that our ring is on and our wind chime is hanging, we're going to work on the strands. For this, I just ended my bead strands with a few little resin pieces that I had discarded. So I'll show you how I got all those strung together on this last one, and then I will show you how to hang them on the bottle. So for this, pretty standard, we're just going to get a little crimp bead. And then we're going to feed it through the bottom piece. Since this one does have an independent piece down at the bottom and we are hanging it from the sides of the bottle, we're going to be working bottom up on these strands versus top down like we did on the last one. So I'll just get this crit bead on my tail. Now we will go for the crit bead cover. And I will string on my beads. Now, because of the fact that I don't want the sides of the glass on these holes to wear through my fishing line, I am going to make some little loops around the holes that I have made to attach the fishing line to. That way my fishing line is not rubbing against cut glass. This is actually my third attempt at making these wind chimes. I have lost many bottles. It was a very sad day for me. Alright, so now that we've got all 4 of the strands, I will show you how to put on these loops, and then we will simply attach the strands to the loops and we will be good to go. Alright, so how I like to make these loops is I take this little eye pin and I'm going to put my pliers just a little bit below the loop and bend. And then I'm going to come back and right on the other side of that bend, I'm going to put my pliers there again, and this time I'm going to bend the opposite way. And this is going to create kind of a little zigzag pattern. So I'm going to come over here to where my hole is, and what we're wanting is we're wanting this loop to be underneath the glass. So you're going to have it to where your little zigzag zigzags your loop underneath. And I'm going to hold it right there, and I'm going to put my pliers right at the bottom of the hole. I'm going to need to turn them around, and I'm going to bend that way. Then I'm going to come back, put my pliers right there, and bend again. And essentially what this is going to do is this is going to create a little clip of sorts. So I'm going to sit here and put that in there. It'll snap right in. Alright. And now for this part, I do like to take it down and do the rest. I'm just going to be twisting the end of this eye pin around my loop. Alright, so there's the finished product. You got these cute little hoops. As you can see, I've already done the other 3. So now we will attach our strands and we will be good to go. And that's pretty self-explanatory. we're just going to feed on a crimp bead, and then feed it through feed the fishing line through one of our loops that we just created, and then of course back through the crimp bead. Now, this is the whole reason why I didn't want to go ahead and end off these strands that I've got the beads on, because of this reason here. I want to be able to stagger their length, and I want to kind of be able to judge where I want them to hang. So I'm quite fond of where this one's hanging right here. So I'm going to go ahead and close my crimp bead, trim my tail, and get a crimp bead cover on that. Now this is I love how many different things you can do with a wine bottle once it's empty. I have been going crazy playing with them. They are... I'm also quite a big fan of liquor bottles. They are quite fun too. The wind chime in the next video is actually going to be out of a Sky vodka bottle. I'm really excited for you guys to see that one. Alright. I don't know about you guys, but I think this turned out to be quite the beautiful wind chime. Have my crimp bead cover and this beauty will be done. And there we go.